They used to say, if a man could fly, he'd have wings. But he did fly. He discovered that he had to. Do you wish that the first Apollo mission hadn't reached the moon? Or that we hadn't gone on to Mars and then to the nearest star? That's like saying you wished you still operated with scalpels and sewed your patients up with catgut, like your great grandfather used to. I'm in command. I could order this. But I'm not, because Dr. McCoy is right in pointing out the enormous danger, potential in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this. But I must point out that the possibilities, the potential for knowledge and advancement, is equally great. Risk. Risk is our business. That's what this starship is all about. That's why we're aboard her. You may dissent without prejudice. Do I hear a negative vote? Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Saturday, July 21st, 2018. I was going to do some video editing today, maybe even take you inside the video editing, but instead my computer decided to install updates for 40 minutes. Admittedly, I was trying to get it to work with a USB C display external monitor, and that wasn't working, perhaps due to a brand new bug in the brand new version of macOS that I'm using. But I was working through that, and of course, just as I was getting this show, my computer finished rebooting and finishing its updates. But now I'm going to do this show anyway and edit video later. This is Bitcoin Talk Show, and here's what's going on today in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin was up 0.87% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 7,399, a high of 7,421, and a low of 7,253. That's $1 for 13,528 Satoshis. Sweet. As always, you can support the World Crypto Network by giving us a thumbs up down below, by subscribing and sharing this episode, and by donating Bitcoin or crazy altcoins to the QR codes on your screen right now. You can also support us at the World Crypto Network Patreon on Patreon or at Mad Bitcoins Patreon. We don't have anything planned today. I was going to look through the news and see what's going on, but I wanted to see, first off, last night I went down to Fremont Street here in Las Vegas, and I tried to hand out Bitcoin flyers. It's much more difficult than you think, but we did get a couple of nice people that wanted to take a flyer and talk to me a little bit about Bitcoin, and that went pretty well. And I'm going to work on editing up the proper video for that soon. It's going to have a special call to action at the end. You can see here I'm doing some lip syncing to Bon Jovi's "Living on a Prayer." I don't know. I saw all these puppeteer guys doing lip syncing, and I was like, "Oh, I could do that." You just over exaggerate everything you say, have a cool costume, and I just love the way the lights of old Vegas look behind me in the backgrounds. I can't wait to see the HD footage that I shot with a real camera. But I had a couple of, and there's some more pictures of it. Uh, just great colors. Has some good colors. I was having a discussion with Terrence Yang this morning. He disagrees with me on Free Ross, but I respect his opinion and I respect his right to disagree. But I wanted to see what you guys thought. What do you think about Ross Ulbricht, the alleged Dread Pirate Roberts, who's now spending 2 consecutive life sentences in jail for operating a website that's nominally no different from Craigslist? Craigslist allowed you to sell drugs and prostitutes, yet the creators of Craigslist, the founders of Craigslist, the people who made Craigslist are not in jail for double life sentences. Why is that? Why is Ross Ulbricht in jail for double life sentences and the founder of Craigslist are not? Now, I know what the judge said. I listened to the trial. I've heard of the crack house defense, and that is what the judge used. The judge said, imagine if you owned a house or a property and you rented it out to some bad people, and the bad people turned it into a crack house. But you designed the property with several hiding places and secret doors and places to hide your stash, etc., etc. You designed the place to be a crack house. That's what she said about Ross. She said that the Silk Road was designed to only sell illegal items. It also did sell raw milk and some political pamphlets. I don't know, some assassination, some other garbage. But, it sold many things. It was a free market. It was operating under free market principles. And in reality, if you look at the actual results of the Silk Road on a large scale, it allowed for the sale of large amounts of cannabis for large amounts of money with no violence. I agree that definitely embarrassed the government, and the government's coming to terms with the fact that cannabis is slowly being legalized and that the younger generation has no interest in this nonsensical drug war. Most reasonable people believe that drugs are a treatment issue, not a criminal issue. We need to rehab people, not just send them to jail and ruin their whole lives. And I think that we should rehab Ross Ulbricht. I don't think there's any reason for him to be in jail. It's been about 4 or 5 years, more than enough. Sadly, I do think the only way this is going to end is through a presidential pardon. Certainly, the current, whatever you want to say about him, president, it's entirely possible. He's done a lot of random things and pardoned a lot of much, much more guilty people than Ross. But he doesn't really have he's not an anti-drug warrior. He doesn't really have the political backing. His party is not anti-drug war. I think it's going to be very difficult for him to pardon Ross or for him to even be interested in this case. 10, 20 years down the road, if the drug war continues to wane, marijuana population or popularity and legalization continues to grow, I do think it's possible we could have a president who would free Ross, who would give him a presidential pardon. Other than, sending him a cake with a stick of dynamite inside or any kind of other such nonsense, I don't know how he's going to get free. If they change all the laws, that would help, but I still think he's going to need a pardon. We are seeing the laws slowly changed, and that is what you do with unjust laws. You change them. Just to go through our debate. And again, I respect Terrence. I respect his opinions here. I just disagree with them. And we're having an open discussion and debate about that. Neither of us needs to be torn down, ruined, destroyed, yelled at for this debate. He has the right to his opinion. So, what Terrence said first, someone said, "Can you please explain the Free Ross movement to me? It seems pretty clear that he was okay with paying people to kill people. And again, you see how he goes directly to this alleged murder charge. First of all, he was not charged with murder, but they used it during the trial anyway. Second of all, the murders that he was charged with, he was entrapped by the FBI agents who were also stealing from him. So you've got and they are now in jail. They are now in jail. So, but let's go on with what Terrence said. Terrence said about the Free Ross movement, it's a way to virtue signal your ANCAP creds. Ross was given the market what he wants. He was never charged with attempted murder. Okay, so both those are true. Then he says, if you sign the Free Ross petition, it's a way for the feds to dock and track you. Okay, so I'm going to say that's FUD. He's trying to scare you from using your political voice. If you can be scared out of your political voice, you've already lost your political voice. You already live in a controlled society, totalitarianism, fascism, whatever you want to call it, whoever your God is, you've lost your political voice. So if you've lost your political voice and you're already living in a totalitarian society, there's a lot of things you shouldn't do. There's a lot of things you should be afraid of, and you've lost internal control, and outside controls are now inside of your system holding you down. So I think you have a real problem if you're afraid of the feds doxing you for signing some dumb petition. If we're already at the Orwellian point where signing some dumb petition gets you on the feds list and they'll mess with you, we've already lost, right? We have huge problems. Additionally, what if someone used your computer and used your computer to sign the dumb petition? Now, according to Terrence's logic, you're on the feds list and they're going to dox you and come get you. How bad are these feds? How bad have they infested his mind? Don't let them infest your mind. If you have a political voice, if you're still alive, you have a political voice. The United States is still relatively free. There are less free countries in the world where this is more true, but I'd say this is less true in the United States. And additionally, if it's already gone, it's already gone. We may as well, use it. You may as well get on that list. I would say if you're not on that list, you're not a good person because you're acting out of fear or you're letting the government control you or whatever. I don't think that's a good argument. So Then he says, Ross got caught. Maybe support more competent people. And I hate to say it, but this is really an echoing of President Donald Trump. And if I was Terrence or anyone else, I'd be very embarrassed and afraid and not wanting to echo Donald Trump. Donald Trump, of course, said about John McCain, who was a war hero who was shot down in Vietnam, I prefer war heroes who don't get captured. Just an absurd thing to say if you've ever studied war or ever read about anything. For him to say that it's Ross's fault for being captured and all those things is ridiculous nonsense. And it's ridiculous for Donald Trump to say that John McCain's not a war hero, especially considering what he did after he was captured. I don't know if you guys know, but he was held in horrifying, terrible conditions, dehydrated, bad food, tortured, kept in cells, chained in uncomfortable positions. And when they offered him a chance to go free, he said that he wouldn't leave until all of the men were allowed to go. John McCain did come from kind of a well off background. He was a fighter pilot, but when he was in that POW camp, he showed his true spirit and he showed his quality of character. So for President Trump to say he's not a war hero because he's got caught, I think is terrible. And I think for what Terrence said here, that Ross got caught. Maybe you should support more competent people. It's just kind of ignorant. It's just kind of like he supports him when he's a criminal, but he doesn't support him when he's on trial. And it's the same for all the people right now who are enjoying Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the cryptocurrencies. If we didn't have the Silk Road to promote Bitcoin, do you think we'd be here? And if that thought can go through your mind a little bit, you can think about your startup, or you can think about your pile of Bitcoin wealth or your goofy altcoins or whatever you got out of Bitcoin. And I think a lot of people got a lot of good things. Roger Ver is a billionaire, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of other people have companies and jobs, incredible things that are all in a way because of Ross Ulbricht, in a way because of the Dread Pirate Roberts, because he took this risk, like Captain Kirk was talking about. Risk is our business. He took this risk, he started this website, and he spread the word about Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin still being used for other drug websites? Undoubtedly, yes. Has the FBI's capture of Ulbricht and punishment of Ulbricht ever had any deterrent? Has it ever stopped anyone from starting a drug site? No. Has it stopped all drug sites? No. So there's still a chance here. Let's go on with some more of Terrence. And we had some back and forth. And again, this is a reasonable debate between two people. This is not an angry noise calling, name calling thing. So I said to Terrence, so you're operating under the assumption that all laws are just and fair. All verdicts are correct and must be upheld. The law never makes mistakes. And then I kind of twisted back on him and I said, Nelson Mandela just got caught. I support competent people. Because again, good people have been in jail. Nelson Mandela, Emilio, I forget his name, from the Dreyfus affair in France. Um, he wrote a fine book in prison. He was that guy. And many fine books have been written in prison. Solzhenitsyn was in prison. Socrates was in prison. Lots of great people have been in prison before. So I don't think that that's a way to just, tell it off, to say they have no value. And then I kind of needled him a little. I said, I'd hate to be in VC France with you. And I even included the link to the Wikipedia in case you don't know. During World War II, France was ruled by the Nazis under Vichy France. So it was pretty okay to say you didn't like the government of Vichy. It was pretty okay to resist and rebel against them, as they were, a Nazi government. They were an occupying force. So once again, you have to have the freedom to go against the government sometimes, especially when they're corrupt. When they're corrupt. Sorry. Terrence agrees. He says, good points. But he counters with, he says, in Ross's case, he had access to good lawyers. True. Better than most defendants, and appealed until he couldn't. I agree. The system did allow him appeals. It's a pretty decent system. He says that also Ross is an educated white kid, not the type to be jailed for life typically. He broke the law. He got caught. He's paying the price. He never said the law was fair. So I agree with Terrence here. He's got a lot of good points and a totally respectable side. I disagree. I say, but was the trial fair? Did they threaten him with murder charges and then withdraw them? poisoning the jury pool with the evidence anyway? Did they block the fact that the agents who investigated Ross stole money from him and went to jail? Yes. If the trial was not fair, it should be a mistrial and redone. If he's out of appeals, perhaps a presidential pardon is in order. Certainly, more guilty people have been pardoned lately, and you can go read the list of the horrifying, completely guilty people that have been pardoned lately. Going further, um, in reality, his website allowed for large trades with large amounts of cannabis for large amounts of money with no violence. Also, I would argue strongly that the Silk Road is no different than Craigslist. It is a common carrier that allows people to sell anything they want. Is the founder of Craigslist in jail? Double life sentence? Is there no difference between Craigslist and Free Ross than we have found in justice? New trial or presidential pardon? And then I closed with a quote from good old Solzhenitsyn, who said, "Justice is conscience, but not a personal conscience, but the conscience of the whole of humanity. Those who clearly recognize the voice of their own conscience usually recognize the voice of justice." And I do think that justice is a personal thing, and that you can tell when justice is done, and you can tell when justice is off. Someone, commits a murder, goes to jail for a long time, justice is done. Someone commits a victimless crime, doesn't harm anyone, goes to jail for a long time. That doesn't seem right. Yesterday, I brought up the story of John Lennon and the 10 for 2. I don't remember the gentleman's name. It's going to come to me. But he went to jail in the 60s for having 2 joints in his pocket. The judge gave him 10 years in jail for 2 joints. John Lennon, the famous Beatle and rock star, found this so disgusting, so despicable that he went to the jail and he wrote a song about 10 for 2. And in the song, he asked the judge why he wouldn't let him go free and why this injustice should be allowed to stand. And he went to the jail and he sang the song and they let the man free. It didn't change all the drug laws, it didn't end the drug war, but in that one case, 10 years for 2 joints, John Lennon said that it was too much, and they set him free. I don't wanna say that everything is connected or there's a conspiracy theory here, but you can obviously see the power of John Lennon, not just as a Beatle, not just as a rock star, but as a political voice. John Lennon saw something that was wrong, he went there, he did something, he changed it. A few years later, he was randomly shot on the street. But still, that's not a reason not to do something. The fact that they crucified Jesus is not a reason not to do good things. It's a strange story and it's hard to understand, but that is not the message. So don't take these as negatives, take these as reasons for us all to do action. Someone like John Lennon can change the world. Maybe 1,000 of us, 100,000 of us, 1,000,000 of us, we could do the same. I'm not big into petitions. I don't think they're that useful. But it is a show of hands. It is a show of support, and it can inspire other people. Other people might look at the petition and say, wow, this many people want this changed. I'm going to volunteer my time. And they might be lawyers, or they might be political experts, or they might be good at campaigning or handing out flyers, or political movements, all these things. These people can be swayed by petitions. They can join a cause that they see a lot of people gathering around and that is unjust. And a lot of people join causes just to fix justice, that kind of thing. So I think this is a really interesting topic, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, even if you disagree with me. And it's totally fine to side with the law in this one. Ross clearly broke the law. He clearly started a website that allowed for people to trade drugs, raw milk, violence, weapons, things like that. Things that you can't trade in the existing market, which, of course, if we really want to talk about it, there are limits to things. There are, philosophical back and forth we could have, but generally, most things should be available to adults. I'm not a big one for saying that we should tell adults they can't have things. This is a surprise because I'm in favor of seat belts, but seat belts are more of, I don't know, I'd have to get Blake on here to really explain the words to me, negative rights or something like that. Seat belts protect you, but don't really take away your rights, except your right to move around the car, I suppose. I don't know. It's complex. We'd have to go down the line. But I have different thoughts on different issues because of different reasons. I can't just say with like a blanket that I support all of this or I support all of that or I support all of this party's ideas or I support all of that party's ideas. I'm much more of a nuanced individual when it comes to these things. And I think that's how we should all be. I think if you find yourself following, and I do like certain parties and I do like certain trends in my politics, but if you're following a single party, if you're following everything they say and believe, that might not turn out too well for you. So it really comes down to, like we're saying in the chat, they're saying adults should be able to buy raw milk. I'm with you there. If you want to eat steak tartare or meat that's not cooked or sushi or whatever, I'm with you there, although I might not join you. And all these other things. I mean, it's a case by case basis. I mean, if you're going to like say adults should be allowed to drink poison and we should put poison on the shelves and we should put poison in the soda or whatever, and you get the wrong Pepsi and you die, I'm not down for that. I'm not down for like Pepsi poison in the stores or something. But if you like something like cilantro, and I think cilantro tastes like soap, we can agree to disagree. Taste buds are different. Cilantro is a very complex thing, but I think a lot of things are like that, and a lot of things we need to have a more complex. Uh, I don't know what he's talking about, but all the complex things. So going to go ahead and open up the phone lines here on World Crypto Network. You can call us on Skype, all one word on Skype. Get the Skype screen on the screen here and unmute this guy. Oh, cool. My battery's going to die. This is exciting. Uh, okay. It had 75% of battery like 5 minutes ago, and then I turned on this show, and now I have no battery. So I'm gonna go get the battery charger. Uh, which I think is downstairs, and I'm gonna be right back. You guys talk about, it seems that you're talking about cilantro, which I love because cilantro is a really unique situation where it really does taste like both. Like if you like cilantro, it's because you ate it when you were a kid and you're okay with it. And I ate it a couple times as a kid, but apparently not enough. If you don't like cilantro, it's because it tastes like soap, and you just didn't ever develop the taste to it. And this is a good example for empirical evidence and like the reason that a single piece of evidence has no value. I can tell you, I personally, cilantro tastes like soap, but you could tell me completely different, and you would be right, and I would be right. So let's hold on while I go get my headphones or go get my power adapter. But get ready to call us on Skype. Install Skype right now. Get an account. It's free. I'll be right back. All right, my laptop's charging and I'm back to take some phone calls. Let's see what's going on. We are right here on Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word. Just ran up and down stairs. Woo! Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Say YouTube is spyware. Never chocolate milk from regular cow. And cumin is the root, cilantro is the leaves of the plant. That's an interesting plant. Oh, they didn't hear about the cilantro thing? Yeah, it's really interesting. 75% to low just like that. Probably mining Monero. Oh, my laptop, I don't know. It looked really good when I started this show, but part of it is, just how much it takes. Like, one window is running the video and audio, the other window is running the remote desktop connection, another window is running the graphics, everything's happening. So this guy says, "Selling drugs is a violent crime." It's tough to say. I mean, again, I would go on we have to judge everything on its own merits. I would say selling meth is a violent crime, because I think meth is a negative thing and has a negative effect on people's life. Uh, Selling heroin is a violent crime. Heroin's a negative thing, has a negative effect on people's lives. Selling cannabis, I'm not sure if it's a violent crime. So many states have legalized cannabis now for both medicinal and recreational values. I'm not sure it is. Now, selling alcohol is a violent crime. That's interesting. Alcohol, while being legal, can cause you to crash your car, can cause you to get in a fight, can cause you to get arrested, or if you're drunk in public, or those kind of things, if you're belligerent. Is selling alcohol a violent crime? See, I think this is how it gets so complex so quickly. On one hand, selling meth, violent crime. Selling alcohol, selling cigarettes. They're saying in the chat, selling shit coins. Is selling shit coins a violent crime? Sometimes people lose their money on shit coins, but sometimes people make a lot of money on shit coins. And I don't know if you could say that about these other things. I mean, William S. Burroughs wrote some really good books, did a lot of heroin. Is the heroin good for William S. Burroughs? I still don't think so. But once again, I've read the books. I think they're good. Same thing for Kerouac, probably Ginsberg. I don't know. They all have to make their own choices and decisions. It's very interesting, isn't it? I think we have a lot of complexity here. And I don't say I have all the answers or anything, but I'm saying when I've found complexity, I know it. I can say, hey, this is complex. So, but we're checking it out. We've got some open phone lines here. If you want to check it out, you can call us now on World Crypto Network, all one word on Skype. We'll try to keep this talk show going for a little while longer. If we don't have any calls, I will read you news articles and see what's going on in the news today. Uh, I haven't read them yet, but I am willing and capable of reading the news live on the fly. So, uh, China's crypto millionaires are using Bitcoin to buy real estate abroad. That just sounds smart. I don't have crypto billions or millionaires or whatever these guys have, but if I did, I would buy a piece of San Francisco or a piece of Manhattan. If I was in London, I would buy a piece of London. If I was in Hong Kong, I'd buy a piece of Hong Kong. Even if it was an empty lot or a small apartment. I just get the feeling that these cool places to live, these places that are great cities, that have access to arts and culture and nightlife, they're going to be exciting and fun places to live. So that's what I would be interested if I was a Chinese crypto millionaire using Bitcoin to buy real estate abroad. But it also pretty funny that to see that the Chinese crypto millionaires are doing the same thing that the normal Chinese millionaires do, buy property abroad. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory or anything, but I do think there's a large amount of Chinese investment in the United States, in London, in Hong Kong, in other cities like this, where they know what I know. They know San Francisco, they're not printing any more of it. They know that London, they're not printing any more of it. If you get some London now, you've got a piece of London. So it's interesting stuff. I'm not pro or against China here, just reading the article. But it's funny to see what's going on in the chat. See if I can get you guys back on the screen here, or maybe you never left the screen. Let me go back to the article. Hey, it's me again. I like the way it chooses to make it so dark today, but I can adjust that on the webcam maybe. But yeah, here's the article that I was checking out as I get the chat loaded here. Um, China's crypto millionaires are using Bitcoin to buy real estate abroad. Interesting stuff. And they're still talking about the moral debates in the chat. If gambling is gambling a violent crime? And again, gambling, I think, is like buying shit coins, right? We're basically saying that gambling you can win, but gambling you can lose. So if you teach someone to gamble and they lose a bunch of money, were you being violent to them, or were you just teaching them to gamble? If you teach someone to gamble and they win a bunch of money, uh, what do is that a good thing? Was that violent to them? It's very complex. You have to do it on a case by case basis. We have to have different ideas, different plans. It says in the chat, someone says Nixon launched the drug war to jail African Americans and hippies. It seems very probable. He did have quite a problem with them protesting at the White House and so forth. He didn't like their culture. He thought the hippies were dirty. He said this kind of thing on tape many times. And of course, if we go back to the original reasons why marijuana was made illegal in the 1920s, it was seen as something used by jazz musicians, code African Americans, Mexicans, and crazy, out of control, adding those adjectives in there, and that the marijuana did it to them, and that the marijuana, this reefer, caused reefer madness in these people, and that we should get rid of it because of that. And this was Harry J. Anslinger, FBI agent or director back in those days, his opinions, and that's what we did. So seems like a mistake. It seems like historically, if you go back, cannabis has always been used by midwives. It's always been used as a medicine in tinctures and alcohol, all kinds of things throughout history. We actually have receptors in the brain for cannabis. So it seems like a specific, strange, bizarre mistake made in the 1920s, perhaps, as the audience is saying, for racism. Perhaps it was a racism. It's also a class issue. I would say that the upper classes probably don't use the lower classes' drugs, so it's an easy way to punish them. You can see this in real-time examples with cocaine versus crack cocaine. The sentencing guidelines for crack cocaine were much harsher than for normal cocaine. Crack cocaine, of course, being used on the streets, and normal cocaine being used by rich people in parties. We also saw things like the CIA importing crack cocaine to the inner cities, which again used to be a conspiracy, but now is a 100% guaranteed historical fact. The CIA sold crack cocaine to the inner cities. Governments make mistakes. They did it to finance the Iran-Contra affair. It's very fascinating, but you can go read about it. No one's stopping you. And what if Trump was on a skateboard? Well, skating is not a crime, right? Skateboarding is not a crime. I love those stickers. I also love the ones that say skateboarding is a crime. It's funny stuff. Corey saying William Randolph Hearst was responsible for marijuana prohibition. I don't know that for sure, but I would certainly give him a hand and some credit. Hearst was the famous newspaper man who said about Cuba, he said, "You bring me the prose poetry, and I'll bring you the war." He said it didn't matter if there was a war there or not. He had an incredible amount of power with his newspapers, even so much so that when Orson Welles made Citizen Kane, perhaps the greatest movie of all time, definitely in the top three, it was blocked and it was critically destroyed, and it didn't make a lot of money. And he almost bought the narrative and burnt them all, or the negative and burnt them all. But still, William Randolph Hearst couldn't stop Orson Welles, although he did slow him quite a lot, which shows you the incredible power of the man and his papers, that he could stop even such a great movie. So, Hearst required land for trees and paper in the deal. Let's see what's going on. Oh, come on. Don't be mean to Pelosi. Even if you don't like her, it's no reason just to be mean to her. You're not gaining anything. You're embarrassing yourself, actually. Great cities are rampant with out of control crime and homelessness. A way to support socialism. I don't know. I've been to some great cities, and they all impress me. They all have their own little things that impress me. They all have access to things that I wouldn't have in smaller cities. I don't know if I'd agree with that, but and then let's see, we're talking about gambling, Bitcoiners losing money, coriander, the details behind cilantro. Let's see what's going on. Cannabis, God's gift or Satan's cilantro. That's funny. Thank you, Ryan. That's hilarious. All drugs should be legal. Certainly an argument. I would say certainly I believe in the Portugal type situation where Portugal has said that drugs are a rehab issue, and if you're addicted to drugs, they'll hook you up and they'll they'll try to rehab you. If you're on heroin, they'll give you, damn, I forgot that insulin. No, that's not right. Um, they'll give you that fake heroin for a while that's still pretty good and, try to wean you off, and they'll try to take you to counseling, and they'll try to talk to you. And, at the very worst case scenario, you don't have needles out everywhere. Uh Needles are a big problem in San Francisco. Down by the public library, there are needles in the street, there are needles in the gutters. They've actually had to put in sharp containers so that you can put the needle in the container to keep everyone safe. And when they have people go through and clean out those homeless camps, these people have to wear hard gloves and metal-toed shoes and things like that, so they don't step on any of these needles, which all could have blood and all could be infected. It's gotten so bad at the San Francisco Public Library downtown there, they've had to train the librarians how to give people the drug that saves your life if you're on heroin. There's an anti-heroin drug that can save your life, and they've trained the librarians on how to do that. It's pretty amazing, and I love San Francisco. I'm not bagging on the city. I'm just saying that they have some serious problems, and they're trying to fix them. They're trying to help people, and that these are related to the way that we as a society treat our drug problems. It's also related to the way we treat uh, crazy people. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas. I'm Jimbo from Massachusetts.
Hey, Jim. What's on your mind today about Bitcoin or anything else I've been talking about?
Yeah, so the other day you were asking for ideas about how to spread the word, and I wanted to talk about that for a minute.
Sounds good.
So I think one of the problems that the Bitcoin community has generally is that it attracts people of a particular stripe. I mean, I know that you've been talking to people about their anarcho-capitalism and libertarianism and whatnot, and how they're kind of zealous about it. And I think what Bitcoin needs is a little bit of empathy for people who don't necessarily have that political perspective.
Empathy. So tell us more. What is this empathy?
Yeah, so I just finished reading Saifedean's book, and it's well written, and he makes a lot of good points. I've also read a lot of the same sources he has, like Rothbard and whatnot. But it's very much a book like by a libertarian for libertarians. And so he uses terms like sound money and hard money, and he talks about how important those things are and how good gold is and all that. And unfortunately, for people who don't hold those same kind of temperamental ideals, that can be a turnoff. So while his book is excellent for its audience, he's not reaching a broader audience.
Well, I find that kind of encouraging because I'd still like to write a big generic Bitcoin book for normal people. And if he hasn't done that, I mean, I've kind of read the table of contents. I haven't gotten into his book yet. But if he hasn't done that, that's good because there's still a chance for that. But I do agree with you. A lot of people are hailing that book like that's the one, and that's the one you. I don't know if you give it to normal people, but like you're saying, we need a book that we could give to normal people that would both explain because I've heard he does a lot of talking about the problem, and he explains the Federal Reserve, and he explains how gold works and all these things, which is great. But I want to talk about the solution and how people can get involved in Bitcoin and just go more of a positive direction. Because I really think people need to take action, get involved, and when they see this thing work, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty easy to use. That's like internet money." And it doesn't take their whole life. They can do it in an hour or two and move on to some other things. And then if they need to send some Bitcoin somewhere next week, they're ready to go.
Yeah, I think those are good points. I think helping people to understand that it's relatively easy to try. Like you can install a wallet real quick and try it out. The barrier to entry is pretty low. But at a slightly higher level, what I'm talking about here is maybe trying to reframe Bitcoin. And so I've been working on a framing I'd like to try out with you if it's not too much of a sidetrack.
All right,
but the framing that I'm trying to work on with Bitcoin is I'm trying to call it fair money. And I know that word fair is a little triggering for people, especially if you're of a libertarian bent, because what's fair and that's not fair is what kids say. But calling it fair money, I think, will speak to a crowd of folks who otherwise would be turned off by things like sound money or hard money.
Okay, that sounds good. What would we do though? I mean, I don't know. I can tell you, from yesterday's experience, I was out in the street. I was in downtown Las Vegas, and there was a lot of tourists. Now, in my mind, the tourists would be interested to talk to me because they're tourists and they're bored and they're on vacation. But I hadn't counted on how much people don't like flyers and how much people think that you're being paid. So the fact that I was out there volunteering my time wasn't apparently clear to them. I was no different than someone handing them a strip club flyer, which I admit I ignore. I don't want. So I get that. But what would you say? Like, you're walking down the street, you got to pitch somebody, you got a handful of flyers. If you say to them, "Hey, fair money," do they think that their current money is unfair?
Yeah, I don't think they do. And, it's really hard to talk about monetary policy to people because to most people, money is this green stuff that they carry around or maybe what's in their bank accounts. So unfortunately, I think, again, this gets to like the framing. I'm not trying to say it's going to be easy, and I'm not going to say that it's necessarily going to be easy to convert people on the street. But I think introducing a new language into the vocabulary that we can use at a higher level, hopefully we can change the narrative a little bit. Unfortunately, as you've pointed out many times, Bitcoin doesn't have a marketing department, right? So this is kind of like a task for the PR department of Bitcoin, which is kind of us, it's everybody.
I think we're having a meeting of the marketing department right here, and this is it. And I really felt that yesterday. I was like, why hadn't I done this before? And it's because it's so difficult. It's hard. You go out there on the street, people don't want to talk about your thing. But this is what religious people must feel. And remember, when they're out there on the street, even if you don't agree with their religion, or maybe you're a different religion or you have no religion, they're trying to do a good thing, right? They're trying to save your soul or whatever the details may be. We're also trying to do a good thing. I was trying to tell people about Bitcoin. I've told people about Bitcoin in the past, and they have a little bit of savings now that they never would have had. And I was hoping to tell these people out on the street. And I did have one kind of epiphany last night, at least, with these people. Next time, we might have a different brand of flyers, and we might. Sorry, getting some background noise. We might have a different brand of flyers, and we might go with some. We might go after the buskers, right? The people that are banging on the drums, the people that are dressed up in the costumes, the showgirls who want you to take their picture with them. It might cost us a little bit. We might have to give each busker $5 or give them $10. But if I could get a little of their time, get them to listen to the Bitcoin, and then if they'll do a little interview with me on the show, I think that would be pretty good. So we might do that next time. Not every place has a whole row of buskers, though, so it's not really the same for normal society. But what do you think, Jim? What should we do handing out flyers on the street? Should people try this in their local areas?
Yeah, so the types of folks that you're talking to are you're very much advocating for what I can understand as being a bottom-up strategy. So these are kind of like the everyday folks you're trying to speak to, and I don't know that that's the route that I would take. I think the biggest, so I tend to think of most people as being divisible is kind of a strong word. I think a lot of these is a arguments are kind of, you were talking earlier about violence. Is this violence? So sure. Is a very strong thing, and I don't mean to engage in it too much. But if you group people kind of broadly into categories, you have the liberal left, the still liberal left, you have the conservative right, and you have the libertarians. And a lot of the language that we're talking to is libertarians. And I think if we want to get broader adoption, we need to speak in a way that appeals to that kind of centrist folks, the reasonable folks who kind of occupy the middle and maybe find themselves on one or the other side of the political divide. And so getting away, I don't know how or if it would be possible to talk to regular everyday folks on the street, but reframing Bitcoin in some kind of a way that speaks to the values of the majority, I think is what's going to be necessary. Unfortunately, most of the language that I hear is speaking to the values of the libertarians and not the values of the centrists.
Okay, well, I'll agree with you there. And certainly when I actually got there out on the street, you go back to your basics, right? You're like, you try to say a nice thing to someone, they won't talk to you. Then you're like, okay, I'm going to start saying sensational things. So I start saying like, Bitcoin, amazing, internet money, free money, goes up 577% in 5 years. Quit your job, get Bitcoin, all this kind of stuff, which I think is kind of effective and worked a little bit. But I think that's the kind of direction we're going. And I agree, it's a bottom-up strategy. We're starting with, for lack of a better term, the common people, the normal people. They don't know about technology. They don't know about Bitcoin. They don't care about the Byzantium general problem or the inflation, deflation, the Federal Reserve, the gold, all those things. They don't care. I think we're selling the get rich quick. We're selling the fact that Bitcoin went up 20% in the last week or whatever. These kind of things. But we've got to figure out how to break through to these people. And we're thinking about a lot of ideas like for $27 on Amazon, we could buy a dollar bill suit, and then we'd have a guy out there in like a dancing dollar bill suit. We thought we'd try to get. I'd like to get one of those big Bitcoin suits, like the mascot guy. I don't know where to order it. If anyone knows, also trying to get one of those Bitcoin plush animals, like the little plush Bitcoin guy with the sunglasses. We need some kind of a centerpiece for our Bitcoin meetup. People can't find us. But these are side issues. If you know where to buy these things, let me know on Twitter in a direct message. But what do you think, Jim? What should we say on the street? Boom, you're out on the street. What are you going to say to get them to take your flyer?
What am I going to say to get them to take my flyer?
Mm-hmm. You're on the spot.
I know. I don't want to give you dead air live on the local.
It's okay. It's okay.
So, I'm trying to think on my feet here. Literally, I'm pacing around my living room.
People in the chat are helping out. They say, Bitcoin, the money of the future. Bitcoin, it's not your grandmother's money. Free money. What do you think so far?
So I mentioned earlier, I've been working on this, trying to call it fair money. And I want to tell you like the three components of that, the way that it's fair, and then maybe we can turn that into a flyer. I mean, I haven't thought about how to flyerize it. But the three ways in which Bitcoin is fair, in my opinion, is one, it's reciprocal. It's, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. And when you have one, it is worth a, 1/21 millionth of all there will ever be. And so it's reciprocal. Like later on when you spend it, you should get back 1/21 millionth of the value of all Bitcoin, right? So it's reciprocal and it's fair in that sense. Mm-hmm. The second way in which Bitcoin is fair is that it's equal opportunity. It doesn't care what your credit score is, doesn't care whether you came from a rich family or a poor family, doesn't care your gender, your race, your social status. Like none of that matters to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is open arms. So it's equal opportunity, and in that way it's fair. The third way in which Bitcoin is fair is it's incorruptible. So like an umpire officiating a fair game, right? It runs a square house, so to speak. Nobody can make more of it than what there is. Nobody can take years away from you, provided that you do the appropriate security. Nobody can. If you're talking to somebody who understands the monetary system, you could talk about debasement, but it's a square house. It's a fair game, and so in that way, it's fair. So those three things: it's reciprocal, it's equal opportunity, and it's incorruptible. And in that way, it's fair money, and it's the first fair money that we've ever had because no other money has ever had those three properties.
All right, I'd agree with that. I still feel that we're in the economic libertarian box. I know that reaching the common people and saying free money or retire from your job, or I mean that's pretty base. I'm not arguing that, but yeah, I'm not sure how to bridge that gap between here and there.
Yeah, I absolutely don't deny that the ideas that I'm espousing are libertarian in nature or sounding. I'm trying to reframe them in a way that would be appealing to people who are not of that natural temperament, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to make that sentiment more saleable to you.
Yeah, I think you're going towards the higher motives. I'm going towards the lower. I think we're going to meet somewhere in the middle.
I think the marketing department is big enough to afford both of us, though, I hope.
Absolutely. And I think we should try both strategies. Even yesterday, like we used some kind of inexpensive paper printed flyers that I did at Kinko's for like $40. We didn't have the, glossy background professional print us a whole box of them because we're not ready to print a whole box of anything. We really don't know what works. I have a variety of slogans here. We're also thinking now, one of the things that we might be doing with these flyers is we might be teaching people how to canvas, and that we're teaching people how to politics here. And this goes into one of my other ideas that I've talked about a little bit, but I haven't set up the website and that kind of thing. But I think we should Bitcoin Nevada. I think that it's a small state, it has a small population, it has a lot of land and a lot of inexpensive houses. And if you're a Bitcoiner out there who's made some money on Bitcoin, or you program on the computer and internet, doesn't matter where you live, move to Las Vegas, move to Nevada. I think we've got some really good ideas here. It's a small state. It's got 4 representatives, and I think it could be ours. That's a longer plan. It's more complicated, but I think part of that is what we're doing right now, teaching people how to canvass. So with that idea, what I'm thinking now is that I would put the slogans on the flyers, and then I would randomize the flyers. So instead of getting a pack of all the same flyers, you get a pack with a bunch of random flyers, and then you read the slogan, and if it doesn't work, you put it on the bottom of the pile, and then you just read the next slogan. And then this way you don't have to like think of anything, and you're not really talking to the person. You're just reading the slogan. What do you think about that idea?
That sounds pretty good. I like that you're still trying to get the word out, and I encourage you to keep doing it. Unfortunately, it looks like I have to get going. I have to cook some lunch for my family, but it's been great talking to you. I hope you take my call again sometime.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jim. Give us a call anytime.
All right. Thanks, Thomas. Bye.
Bye-bye. And you can call us now on Skype at World Crypto Network. Like Jim was saying there is no marketing department for Bitcoin. You might be looking at it right here. I've done a lot of videos about Bitcoin. I've made some, speeches. I've handed out flyers. I've went to conventions. I've been in this game a little while. It doesn't mean I know everything. That doesn't mean I have all the answers. It's great to talk to Jim to have his different ideas about Bitcoin being fair money, and that's a good way to frame it. I think that's a good high level concept. I think, unfortunately, with the kind of marketing we were doing in the street yesterday, it was a little more low level. But I think that, like Jim said, we can work from both ends of this. We can have, and again, we need an entire marketing department. So we have lots of positions available for you. None of them pay, with the exception if you get yourself some Bitcoin and you hold on to it, maybe it goes up in value. Think of that as your pay. When I was out there on the street yesterday, a couple of Bitcoiners joined me from the Bitcoin Las Vegas meetup. And when I thought about it, certainly I wish I could pay them. I wish I could get them more than a bottle of water and a slap on the back, but I can't. But Bitcoin will pay them. Bitcoin will reward them. If they got their hands on some Bitcoin and they went up and they spend a couple of nights in the street handing out flyers, being polite to people, Bitcoin will reward them. And, I haven't edited my video yet. Obviously, my computer rebooted this morning, took some of my time doing some updates. But at the end of my video, it is going to say that I want you to do this, that I want you to print out some flyers, go to your local town square, and film yourself handing them out. I'm going to put the flyers on the internet as a PDF so you can print them out straight from there. You can go to your local your local FedEx. They changed the name. And you can photocopy them. You can do them in black and white if you want to save some money. You could probably print them at home. You don't need to do that many. If you do like 20 flyers, I think it's going to be more than enough. And if we all did 20 flyers in our town squares, in our hometowns, if we all did 20 flyers at a sporting game, whatever it is, if we all did 20 flyers, I think there'd be at least one more Bitcoin for every 20 flyers we hand out, and that's going to grow our numbers. And that the other thing that'll happen is these people will go home if they buy $20 worth of Bitcoin and they think it's cool, and next week it's $25. They just might tell their friends, and we might get more Bitcoiners that way. They're also saying in the chat, you can tape up the flyers on light posts. You can stick them on bulletin boards. I think these are all good ideas. I think we need to go back to the basics. We need to show people why we're interested in Bitcoin and tell them in person. I was saying before, I talked to this kid last week, and I said he could consult with people and teach them how to use wallets. That's what people really need now. They need someone they can consult with, they can ask questions to directly, they can take time with. They don't feel stupid asking the questions, and that you have the knowledge. And if you don't have the knowledge and you're teaching someone, don't make it up. Just say, hey, I don't know this. Let me Google it. Or, hey, I don't know this. Let me get back to you later. The knowledge is out there. You can get it to them, especially if you write it down, make a note that you need to get back to them later. I think that's the way to go. We've got some more slogans coming in the chat. Jeremy's got a good one. Are you tired of overdraft fees? We did have some like that. We have on the back of the flyer. Well, let me show you guys some of the flyers that I'm working with. I haven't turned on the video in a while. It looked like it wasn't that good on my laptop. I don't know why. I have a great webcam. I have some bandwidth issues. I updated my bandwidth recently. I thought that was supposed to help. And then I'm showing some webcam settings. Let me see if I can brighten it up a bit. Looks a little dark. Oh, there it is. Exposure time up. Okay, so here's the front of one of the flyers. And again, this is not the final project. This is a test flyer, part of a series. And it says 1 Bitcoin is worth more than 6 ounces of gold. What is Bitcoin? And then on the back, it's got some information. Probably too much, so I'll read it to you. So here's what we wrote on the back, and we've been testing this with the Bitcoin meetup, and we've been talking to people, and this is not perfect, but we're trying to get this right. So it says, how can I use Bitcoin? Send Bitcoin anywhere in the world to purchase anything that you want. Pretty good. Receive Bitcoin for what you do. It's irreversible, and there's no minimum balance or annual fee. I like that one because I snuck the it's different from bank languages into the definition of how you can receive it. I thought that saves space, right? And then it says hodl Bitcoin, which they'll think is a typo. And it says there are only 21 million Bitcoins. Every 4 years, the number of Bitcoins discovered will reduce by 50%. And we went back and forth with this, trying to get the language right. But you see how when I say hodl it, I'm not saying like that it's a great investment or it goes up in value. I'm actually giving you the facts of why I hodl it, right? I hodl it because there's 21 million units. I hodl it because every 4 years, the number of Bitcoin discovered will reduce by 50%. These are powerful facts that a Bitcoiner knows, but that a new person doesn't know. And I think that we kind of snuck them in there in the how to use Bitcoin section. We snuck some really good facts in to give them that knowledge. The second section is called how can I buy Bitcoin? And this is a little tough. We don't want to recommend companies, but we still have to recommend some companies. So it says Coinbase.com or Cash App. And it says with your bank account on your phone. So it's telling people different ways to do this. Then we have localbitcoins.com. It says meet and buy with cash. So if people have cash and they want to get Bitcoin and they know what that means, they have to fill that in on their own. They have to understand that, oh, there's a difference between Coinbase, where I link my bank account or Cash App, and localbitcoins.com, where I go meet somebody. Then it has a third option. It says Bitcoin ATM, search maps and buy with cash. The goal here is to teach people how to find a Bitcoin ATM and how to use it. I think that was pretty good. At the bottom, it says, you can buy less than a whole Bitcoin. And then it's got at the very bottom, very small print, it says, never invest more than you can afford to lose. Because we're just kind of covering there. We don't want anyone to invest more than they can lose. So that's not quite in focus because it's so bright. But oh well, it's a flyer. You get the idea. So that's the back, and then it says, "Welcome to Fabulous BitcoinLasVegas.org." Has our logo. Not showing it right. That's because my damn exposure time's up too much. There we go. How about that? No, still crappy. All right, and then it says it has a little donate Bitcoin address in the corner. Because why not? Maybe they'll donate. Maybe they'll figure it out later. Or maybe like a real Bitcoiner who has Bitcoin will get the flyer and be like, hey, that's super cool. I want to donate. So the front, and this is especially where you guys can send me some examples on Twitter or maybe make a list of these, because these front slogans we're definitely going to switch out. I think the back's pretty tight. I might reorganize it a little, but I think it's pretty good. I mean, it's not the greatest flyer in all history. Not a professional graphic designer, but I can move the words around. So we got this one called Did You Know the D Casino and the Golden Gate Casino accept Bitcoin? This one's a little brandy, but we want to make friends with these casinos. We think these guys are really cool. We want to have our events at the D Casino. I've been there several times. They take Bitcoin. They have a Bitcoin ATM. I think they're awesome. And we don't have the rights to use these logos, but they have big signs saying they accept Bitcoin. We think people want to know about it. They want people to know about it. So this is just a good thing for our community, not necessarily applicable to where you live. But if you did have a supermarket or a coffee shop or anything in your neighborhood that accepts Bitcoin and you wanted to do your own version of this flyer for your local hood, I think that'd be a good thing. That'd be a way to go. This one's really simple. It says 2013 $100 Bitcoin, 2018 $5,774 Bitcoin. You'll also note that I picked the recent low for that. That's 5 years of time, and that's from $100, which is a nice round number, to the recent low. So even that if it goes to four times that, you would still do well. So this is a good one. I think this is a really good one. We didn't get to hand out enough of these. They got stuck in the middle of the pile. But it says $25 pizza, $86 million fortune. I think that one really makes you think and makes you want to flip over the flyer. All of these, I give them to you, and then the goal is you read the 3 lines and you want to flip it over, and you read the back and you're like, okay, that's all the knowledge and the things like that. So let's see what else we got. I think I had 1 or 2 others. This one I actually handed out a lot of. It worked pretty well. Bitcoin is up 577% in the last 5 years. And even then, I would redesign this one. I would have it say up 577%, something like that. It would be very much more less words. But this did work. I was walking around telling people that it was up 577%, and they were listening because nothing in this world is up 577%. That's amazing. And I think this is the last variation that we had. And yeah, we workshopped other variations, and I'm interested in your ideas. I think there's a lot of different ways to do this. But this one said, 1 Bitcoin is worth more than 6 ounces of gold. Again, just another fact, real simple, real easy. And when I got into Bitcoin, it was worth less than an ounce of gold. So it's very crazy to me to know that it's worth 6 ounces of gold. I even recall my friend Davi, when Bitcoin went to 1,200, he made a bunch of Bitcoin trades buying gold because he loves gold. And no, it was all bad. He should have kept the Bitcoin. But you can never know that. And gold has been so popular for so long. And again, I printed like, I printed like 100 flyers. I did the 4 to a page thing, and I cut them up with the paper cutters at Kinko's. They have great paper cutters. The one I used was even crazy sharp, like it worked for real, compared to my crappy one at home. And paper cutters with a chopper, they always go like halfway through and then they stop working. This one was one of those cool line ones with the big metal poles. But yeah, check it out. That's the plan. Spread the word about Bitcoin. I'm probably going to go to editing that video. They say, I don't know about the Trump Bitcoin comments we're getting here. And again, I'm fine with you guys if you like them or whatever. But hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas, it's Jose calling again from Mexico.
Hey, Jose, how's it going? Have you been spreading about the word about Bitcoin down in Mexico?
I'm sorry, Thomas, can you say that again?
Have you been spreading the word about Bitcoin down in Mexico? What's the Spanish word for Bitcoin?
Oh, that's what I was afraid you said. No, I just moved here, and so I've been like super secure, hyper paranoid about security. So just with a few of my friends, actually, I found my house through Bitcoin, and the two previous people who run it here were also Bitcoiners. But no, I haven't gone out on the street, and I think it's really awesome what you're doing.
Yeah, well, and it's not that bad. I mean, really, let me tell you, no one cares. No one thinks that I have a little bit of money or anything. They don't think that you can make money with Bitcoin. Really, they have been trained, and it's interesting to think about, psychology and human training and Pavlov and the rats and everything like that. Because I really like. I tried the nice way. I'm like, hey, Bitcoin. I'm like, this is the thing I'm into. Lots been talked about on the internet. If I could just say it a few more times, maybe you'd come talk to me about it. And they weren't biting at all, right? There's no bites. And so then I went to the, you'll make millions of dollars. You can quit your job. Bitcoin, it's amazing, goes up in value. I started to get some hits. Some people started looking at me. They're like, oh, 577% up. What is that? So I got a couple of hits. So I don't know. I don't think it's as widespread as you think, especially the people wanting to take it from you. And I also don't think that everyone assumes that everyone has lots of money, because I don't have lots of money. I mean, taking my Bitcoin would be about taking the same as taking my bank account. It's just not that much there. So I don't know, but I agree with you. You have to have your safety and security. But I think we have to, like I was saying earlier, where Terrence or somebody was saying, that they didn't have a political voice, and that you couldn't sign the petition because you'd get doxxed. And I've been there. I've been in that paranoid box where you give your enemies or your opponents, you give them so much power that they're like supernatural, that they know what you're doing before you know it. They do it, and they all this kind of stuff. And I don't think that's a good place to be. Even if you know they did kill John Lennon, right? I think that John Lennon wouldn't have gone back and undone all the peace songs he did. I don't think that he would have erased the master tapes for Imagine. I don't think he would have given up. I think he would have understood that, you know, sometimes bad things, like the things that happened to him, happened, but you still have to try to do good things while you're here. So I think that the good things have to outweigh the bad things, and I know it's hard. What do you think, Jose?
No doubt, Thomas. No doubt. I totally agree. Life's short, you know. And I think that's one of the reasons why I did that, why I made this, why I figured out a way to keep your Bitcoin safe and my protocol and stuff, so that I could go out and, you know, be more open and not have to hide it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
I also did have some ideas for you in Vegas. I was thinking, Tom, what if you guys set up like a little booth, you know, and then people can come to you. It's maybe that's nice.
well, I think they have some regulations against booths and things. They have a lot of street performers here, so a lot of the laws are targeted at street performers. I think one of the things we could do is we thought about sandwich boards. If a person was wearing a sign on their front and a sign on their back that said, you know, Bitcoin up 577%, or, you know, new internet money or some kind of thing, that might work. We also think just adding more people to our team. The more weeks that we have this Bitcoin meetup, we do a casual, it's a social meetup at a bar. There's food and drink, and you don't have to drink. And through that, we've been doing that every week. We hope that we can build up this flyer event, which right now we have scheduled for every other week. But if I can convince the guys on Thursday, I might try to go to the Strip on Friday, because there's a lot of great places to try this out. Different kinds of people, different kinds of times and markets. I really feel in a lot of ways, and again, we're talking at a higher level, at a marketing type level here, that Las Vegas is just a fantastic target audience. The reason I chose this city, the reason I moved here is, I forget the number. I think it's like 40. I want to say it's 4 or it's 40. I think 40 million tourists come through this place. And from a computer science perspective, that's just like a bunch of test data, right? That's a whole database full of people that we can try out our Bitcoin on, right? And see if it works. So I'm super excited to keep trying it out and keep giving out these flyers, and hoping that, you know, someday there'll be a success story of somebody who got a flyer and bought Bitcoin and is happy with it, and maybe even found these shows or something like that. But we gotta, you know, I think the other thing, and I need to start editing that video. I'm behind on video editing now. Is that I really think people can do this in their neighborhoods. You don't have to do it as big. You don't have to do it in a tourist place or whatever. But even if you just start carrying a little handful of flyers with you, and when someone mentions Bitcoin or wants to talk about it, boom, you got a flyer ready. I think this kind of thing, if we all do it, if we all convert 5 people, if we all hand out 100 flyers, I think it's going to change this. So.
I think it's some great ideas, Thomas, and especially having like tons of resources online where like I was thinking like booths, you know, kids could be setting up outside of high schools. You could be setting up outside of tech conferences, and finding the, you know, I'm not a marketing guy at all, so I have no clue, but, you know, finding like the niche markets and going after them and having like resources that you can like, you know, like a nice booth set up with the economic and mining and energy and social impacts and all the different, you know, issue areas. Because you guys were talking about this before, and it made me think of like, I heard somebody ask, I can't remember who it was, but they said like, oh, what's your Bitcoin elevator pitch? You got 30 seconds to pitch Bitcoin. And he said, well, you got to really look at your target audience. And I'm sure you do this, you know, and see like, why would they want to connect with Bitcoin? If it's a little kid, maybe he wants to code. If it's a Mexican lady, oh God, I'm so prejudiced. Maybe she's got international remittances to send. Maybe, you know, whatever. You find how would they, if it's a big banker, you know, he's the ones that make money, you know, so find why they would connect with Bitcoin.
Well, I would agree. Normally it sounds like prejudice, but in marketing, that's actually what you do. You try to see someone, stereotype them, put them in a group, and find the message that will speak to them. And it's interesting to talk about messages and to think about how these things work and what Bitcoin attracts, what other things attract. We talked a lot about Bitcoin rhodium this week. I talked to Andy about it. I'm not a big fan. I don't really understand why he's a big fan. The technicals, everything about it didn't look that good. But really, when I thought about it, and so the earlier caller was talking about empathy, I tried to understand why Andy liked it. And in my mind right now, the hypothesis that I've developed, and my brother helped too, is that this Bitcoin rhodium, whatever it is about it, the scarcity, the security, something about that is like a perfect virus for a gold bug's mind. And something about a person who is into precious metals matches up perfectly with this rhodium argument. And in the same way, we need to find the Bitcoin arguments that match up perfectly with a whole bunch of groups. And because I think Bitcoin's good for a whole bunch of different people. And I think that we're only going to get through there through trial and error. We're going to start off very general. We're talking people on the streets here, things like that. We might even get targeted. People might figure this out. They might say, hey, this message here works at McDonald's. And I've been at McDonald's every day or every Sunday for the last 3 weeks. And I give them out a flyer with this message and this, and they talk to me for half an hour afterwards. I can't get rid of them. They come back the next week, something like that. We need to start cracking and figuring out. And that I think that basically with what we're talking about right here, which is Bitcoin's open source marketing agency, which you're all a part of right now. Like you've all been deputized. All your extra brain power when you're not thinking about things, you'll use it to think about slogans for Bitcoin. You'll use it to think about new places that we could hand out Bitcoin. And then you'll report them back and then we'll do them, right? Somebody somewhere, like you want to say, hey, should we have a Bitcoin guy go to the Grand Canyon, hand out some flyers? Boom. Like I'm in driving range. I could do that. But let's go further. Eiffel Tower. Could we have someone go to the Eiffel Tower and hand out flyers? And again, the key to this is that you have to film yourself on your iPhone. It doesn't have to be a fancy camera, or it could be a Samsung or whatever. Film yourself handing out flyers. Film yourself talking to people about Bitcoin. Then share it with me on Twitter. I'll retweet it and I'll even try to broadcast it in these shows. Maybe if there's a lot of them, I could edit them down into a cool video. Stuff like this. I think this is what we need to do. This is the thing that we've been waiting for, and we could have done it years ago, but we're doing it now. So there it is.
It's really cool, Thomas. And everybody doing their art, like somebody's painting, somebody's a poet, and somebody does whatever, you do your art, because maybe some people won't want to like go out and hand out flyers, but maybe they'll go out and play their violin or whatever, So, sure. and somehow they can connect what they're doing to Bitcoin. I think everybody bring their unique special gifts to Bitcoin.
Well, and even if you don't want to hand out flyers, like I'm going to train these people.
I've been working on my protocol thing and trying to get just to get people to like give some feedback about it and comment on it and stuff. And it's like it's just so slow going. It's so hard to get people to respond to me on Twitter particularly and stuff. I tend to like when I see an article like Jameson Lop, he does similar stuff. So I tend to like when he posts something, I'll like underneath I'll say, hey, and check out my thing. And he's cool. He hasn't blocked me or anything, but like just not so many. So I was wondering if you had any ideas about like Twitter marketing, how to,
Well, first, I think it's a really hard topic. It's like death. No one wants to talk about it. No one wants it to happen to them. One of the problems with things like this is that the more you talk about it, the more it's likely to happen to you. So I don't even like talking about it now. I don't even have any money. I would hate to be somebody like Roger Ver or Andreas or Trace or whatever who has $1 billion and needs to hire security and needs to think about these things. I think for most normal people, like we all have money in our bank. We all know that if someone came up to us with a gun, they could take us to the ATM and make us give them all the money in the bank. That's what we know. That's available for anyone. So I think it's scary to people. They don't like to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. Most people don't have the kind of wealth that makes it worth protecting. The people who do probably are going to use a more like a Zappo or a security thing or have security guards or whatever it is. I think those kind of solutions. So I don't think it doesn't match quite up to the normal person. And then people are very afraid of like losing their keys if they split them up, if their friends die and they don't have the thing to send them the keys. So I just think it's more of like a problem of the future than a problem of today. And it just makes people antsy and nervous. Like it's already like I don't wear my Bitcoin hat outside unless I'm going to a meetup. We're trying to keep these, take these common sense procedures and things. And again, I don't have that many Bitcoin. It's not a big deal. But yeah, I think that's the issues that you're having. It's a tough situation to talk about. So
Yeah, maybe it's just not popular. People don't care so much, and they'd rather talk about lightning, and that's cool. I mean, I'd rather maybe do some lightning stuff. That's cool.
I think just having maybe if you could put it more into a package for like Bitcoin overseas, like if you're going to go on an overseas trip or if you're going to become an expat, then you might want this backup system. Think of it more of like a backup system for your Bitcoin than like a threatening system, because people are afraid of things. And then I would mix it in with more of like in another country, what do you do about Bitcoin? Like, can you go somewhere and trade it? Have you had success doing local Bitcoins? Are there any shops that take it ever? That kind of thing. Just like a Bitcoin expat guide. I would go that direction.
Huh. It's crazy, Thomas, because I feel like my protocol works so well. It's so easy, it's so simple, and it solves the problem of getting physically attacked. So it's just crazy. And so I don't know. I don't know if I'm
They'll
ready to give
physically
up,
attack you.
but
They'll physically
you
attack you.
know,
Like,
maybe just anyways. Can we talk about one more thing, which was really cool? You're talking about Nevada turning Nevada into a Bitcoin state. I think that's a great idea. Bitcoin coming together and really building up the community and the culture. Maybe that's what I love about your show is like it's a it's a more got a little culture, Bitcoin culture. I think we need some more of that.
that's what I think we need. And I was interested in the Free State Project. They moved to New Hampshire. They want 50,000 people to say that they believe in liberty and that they'll move there. And I think 5 to 10,000 people have moved there. And I think it's a cool project. But I have no desire to live in New Hampshire ever. It's a nice place, but it gets a lot of snow, and it's very far away from all the major airports. So I think a nice place like Las Vegas that never gets any snow, that has a lot of entertainment, inexpensive entertainment, has inexpensive homes, inexpensive food, and inexpensive flights. And it has a good tax situation. There's no income tax in Nevada. The capital gains tax for the state is very low, especially compared to California. So I think there's a lot of reasons, not just the Bitcoin Nevada project, for people to move to Nevada and to join us here. And I think it's really exciting. And the Free State Project almost moved to Montana when they first set it up. And I think that would have been a much better idea because it's a much smaller state. Nevada, population wise, still very small. A lot of new people coming here. It's starting to shift from Republican Democrat, which is also good for us if we run as independents and if we're in the middle, kind of, with this new idea being we can pass laws that support Bitcoin. And I know that's going to shock the libertarians and the anti-statists and all these kind of things, but I believe that we can pass laws that are good for Bitcoin, and we just need to brainstorm and figure out what those laws are and all these other kinds of things, and that we could, smooth the ground, that we could like make the road better so that we can go down it faster. And that's what I think a Bitcoin political movement would give us. And that's what I'm advocating for.
That sounds really cool. And I bet it would be really fun. You mentioned this before too, and related is like having some kind of Bitcoin conferences. Anything in the plans?
Yep, we're definitely working on it. It's a little hard. Some people have stolen our name and started a conference, so that's really disappointing. And every time someone mentions it to me and tells me that they're sponsoring that conference or that they're going there, I wonder why. I wonder why they're not aware that these people have obviously stolen our name. And I'm keeping quiet about it. I hope that their conference goes okay, and I hope that they don't do it next year or that they change the name. I'm quietly hoping for that. If their conference didn't go well and they didn't do it next year, I'd be fine with that too. But that's really frustrating. But I want to put that to the side because that's negative and I don't want to focus on that. My friends have talked to the D. The D Casino is very interested in renting rooms to us and other Bitcoiners. They seem like really good people down there. So we're definitely working on trying to have some kind of a WCN con, conference for the community, at the D Hotel in Las Vegas. Working on planning that. We're also looking at an idea for maybe WCN Live. We could do a live show, like do a live version of the Bitcoin group. Then we could answer questions from the audience. And then afterwards, we could just mingle and hang out with the audience. Maybe have some booths selling some Bitcoin t-shirts or something. I think that'd be a cool conference. Again, all of these are going to be on a smaller scale than any of the giant conferences or whatever. But I think we can find out how much it costs to rent a room. We can raise the money to rent the room. Then we can have a reasonable price for tickets and a certain number of them, a cap based upon the size of the room. And boom, boom. Then we've got a Bitcoin conference that's about the people. Try to get some speakers. It's harder than it used to be, but hopefully I can get some speakers and or just do the WCN Live idea. But all of these ideas are out there. We're all trying to develop them. We're glad to work with anybody. We don't necessarily like it when people take our names, though. So, but yeah, that's the plan. What do you think about that, Jose? Sound good?
I think it sounds really cool. And I was also thinking it would be fun to, I've heard some people say, I haven't been to any conferences. I've heard some people say that all the speakers, that's cool. I like all the tech stuff too, but, and all the speakers and everything. But I'm thinking a little outside the box. What if we also did like just more hanging out, maybe some whitewater rafting or something, some, fun stuff where it's just more community connecting and, do some fun, we can have speakers and talks and, dinners and stuff like that, but maybe also like a field trip or two, and I just thought that would be cool or something like that.
That might be fun. I know right now a lot of the ideas have kind of like a day one, a Saturday, which would be the speakers or the live Bitcoin group with question and answers, that kind of thing. And then on the Sunday, we might do another track that's more like Bitcoin for beginners, how to get a wallet, how to do a cold storage wallet, technical things, or maybe have a track about how to do your own podcasts, something about that on Sunday. I don't know. Maybe Sunday night we could do a field trip somewhere. Saturday we would probably have the convention party or some kind of a thing there. And then yeah, we could go well, the great thing about Vegas is you can set up all of your own side things. So I'm sure go ahead. Go ahead, Jose.
I was thinking like, that sounds really cool. And what if we put the week before or the week after? And now I'm thinking maybe they did this at in Acapulco with Jeff Berwick and stuff. But like a week before of fun activities, spa, meditation, and yoga, and just eating good food and hanging out and just like vacation, R&R, time to connect, and because I bet like everybody's so busy, especially people really doing like really hard stuff. And how much time do they get to like chill out? But so like I'm thinking like a week-long spa vacation cruise kind of, something like that that's just more chilled out.
Yeah, people are talking in the chat, distracting me. Yeah, that would be good. Also, I think I don't know if we could do that for the first one, but maybe for the second one. I was also thinking these conferences wouldn't have to be that spread apart. We could even try to do them every 3 or 4 months or every 6 months, something like that. I mean, these could be kind of mini conferences because basically Las Vegas is just this city of conferences. They're going on all the time. And if we can modularize our concert, whatever I'm saying, we can make it small. We could do it over and over again because it wouldn't have that many moving pieces. It wouldn't be that complicated. And if the demand was there, if the people are interested, I mean, we can just judge this based upon demand. But yeah, I think it could definitely happen. There's other things here in Vegas. It's funny, you said meditation and spas. I was thinking more eating meat and shooting machine guns. but that's what Las Vegas does to you.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I don't believe in using them violently, but I would shoot them at a paper target, and that would be super fun. There's even I haven't done it, but some of them they're rumored to have Tommy guns. The gangster gun from the 1920s. So of course I'd want to shoot that, even though it might blow up in my hands because it's if it's 100-year-old gun or whatever. But yeah, I think it'd be fun.
That's a really practical thing too. Like we could do like some gun safety training, like, and that's the community loves that.
Absolutely, and it fits into the libertarian thing. You have the right to have guns. You have the right to protect yourself. all that kind of stuff. And it's very Las Vegas. Las Vegas is very much a like people come here to shoot machine guns. Like it's a thing. And you know, $40, $100, whatever it is, you do it once. I'm not going to do it every day, but yeah, you know, I'd do it once. It'd be fun. And I think there's a lot of things like that here. That would be super fun for me and super fun for people visiting here. So I think it'd be good.
And it would be great for the community to have time to like connect more and just like chill out and connect. You know, there's not so much drama these days. Like, you know.
And people are so negative in the chat. It's hard to take it sometimes. But we'll just keep going. I don't think it would be boring for people to make their own podcast. I think this is training warriors to spread the cost. And yeah, I think we are discussing ideas and being open to ideas. But I think that's going to be necessary because of what we explained earlier, that Bitcoin has no marketing agency. So if you want to know why Ethereum or Stellar or any of these other things are going up and Bitcoin's not going up as much, part of it is because they actually do have marketing agencies and they actually do pay people to talk about their things and pay people to post about their things. And we can do that. We do some of that. People give me donations, people give Andreas donations and other people, and that helps a lot. But I think much like with that idea behind the Buildle thing, I don't really like Buildle. I think it's only good for businessmen and coders. I like Participatal. Participatal is for everybody. Participatal, all you have to do is show up. And I know people don't like to hand out flyers, but I'm going to teach you how to hand them out and teach you how to make it fun. And I'm going to give you cool things to say. And it's going to be hard to get somebody to take that flyer and to talk to you. But when you succeed, when you get someone interested and they go home saying, maybe I'll check out this Bitcoin thing. And when they empty out their pockets at home, they say, oh, I got a flyer from that Bitcoin thing. Maybe I'll check it out. That's when we succeed. That's when it's all worth it. So yeah, we're going to have to make sacrifices and do things we don't want to do to help spread the word about Bitcoin. But it's going to benefit everyone. I really feel like some of the people I told about Bitcoin last night might not be that well off. I told them they could buy $20 worth and that it might go up in value. And I think that's true. And I think they might be a little better off with this knowledge. So I think it's good to do that. I think we should do more of that.
Thomas, that's an awesome point. I have said this like maybe twice on Twitter. I busted out when people get so excited about institutional investors and they say, oh, we can't wait until we get the first sovereign nation to invest in Bitcoin. And okay, maybe there's some complex game theory and whatever, but you know, I don't care about institutions and rich people getting Bitcoin. I don't want them to get Bitcoin. I want them to lose all their fiat, and I want the poor people, like, you know, all the poor people all over the world, get them to get the Bitcoin first. So I totally agree with you. Let's get the, yeah.
All right, let's spread the word. Well, thanks so much for your call, Jose. I want to get the line open, see if we can get some other callers on here. But give us a call back. And
Thomas, you're so inspiring, and you know you're gonna convince a lot of people to move to Nevada. Thanks so much. Have a great day, bro.
Thanks so much, Jose, and keep working on your project. All right, and yeah, I mean a lot of this. All right, more calls. All right, let's do that. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, you'll love this one. My name's Henry, and I'm calling from Montana.
All right, Henry from Montana. Are you happy that the Liberty Movement didn't move there? I know some of the New Hampshire people are not too happy to have them.
It's very complicated out here. Just to even mention Bitcoin, because out here, the real knowledge of Bitcoin out here is that it's this illegal black market thing that people use to either buy drugs or watch, you know, like child porn and crazy shit like that. And I've had so many troubles over the last like 4 years of my life, even trying to get bank accounts that I could send money to whatever what am I trying to say, wallet or trading site or whatever that I would use to obtain, you know, Bitcoin. And it's just amazingly hard out here to even mention it or even go into Bitcoin because people out here are just so underdeveloped in all of it. And even in how general currency works. It's amazing just how it's so basic. It's like everything out here is like 50 years behind the rest of the world.
That does sound like what you're describing, because I remember a few years ago, that's what telling people about Bitcoin was like for me, and it was like that everywhere. I'd tell them about Bitcoin, they'd say, "Oh, you're into drugs and child porn," and I'd be like, "No, I don't. You know, people can do what they want, but no, I'm not into those things." And it's a hard point to start from. It really does shut you down because a lot of these people they want to follow the law, they want to be good people. Some people even have a religious reason for following the law. It's God's law. It's the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard. It's hard to even get anywhere with those people. One thing you might try, although it's a little revolutionary, you could tell them that when the Continental Congress and the American revolutionaries, when they broke off from England, they also printed their own money. But then you're down a whole revolution track, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. What do you got?
I mean, on the same note, though, it's quite difficult to even figure out because I don't even know if I'm on the legal side of it not, because I've gone through so many banks, have not kept any of my paperwork up because like Montana just has a lack of people. So when it comes to surveillance, especially in like a bank, it's not hard. You're not talking about like tens of thousands of people. You're literally talking about like a couple thousand people. Like you only like I've had so many banks that after like a few, because I don't like to use any debit cards or anything like that. I only do direct deposits and stuff like that. And then after like the 7th or 8th time, I'll go to the bank to, put some money back in or whatever. And they'll be like, "Oh, can you go talk to our manager?" And then our manager will be like, "We've noticed suspicious activity relating to Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah." Because out here, there's no banks that will allow any activity related to Bitcoin. They even talk about it. Like when you're opening an account, they'll say, "Are you going to use this to purchase cryptocurrency?" Word for word.
Wow.
And
have you tried any credit unions?
only a handful, very minimal, very small, no large scale credit unions whatsoever. But we do have a couple.
Yeah, I found credit unions, they care less about where you get your money.
Yeah, where I might have to try that. The issue is I live, if you ever got the chance to go out to Montana, and especially like western Montana, not just like the big cities over east near like North Dakota, if you're out like in western Montana, everything is far from each other. Like for me right now to drive to the nearest bank is a 1-hour drive, if not longer.
Wow.
And it definitely, but it's hard because it took me a long time to make the leap into saying like, is cryptocurrency an okay real thing? Like a few years ago, it was like three or 4 years ago, like Bitcoin wasn't even, it was like ridiculously cheap. It was only, I don't even know if it was 1,000 or something like that.
Sure.
Anyways, and I remember I told my parents about it back when they were here, and they thought I was crazy. They literally thought I was like, because they didn't even know what Bitcoin was back then, and they just thought, "Man, you're wasting your money. You're such a terrible person." And then last year when it hit 18K, it really like, and I had been half involved before then, investing a little and all that, but only when it hit 18K and I cashed out, I was like, there's the real potential to change this, because for me right now, if I ever want to own my own home, I have to have half down on a payment for a home.
Sure.
And I know I'm never gonna be able to produce that in a reasonable amount of time, but I've realized now that Bitcoin is like my only opportunity to really step up in life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also think, do you have any friends that are into Bitcoin? I know how hard it can be when you're just by yourself and everyone thinks you're crazy, and yet you're still going to go in and buy this thing. Is that what it was like for you?
Completely, actually. And then the few friends that I did have, because I'm part of the like three people in my area that have a computer and would play online.
Uh-oh.
They were like, "Whoa, you have Bitcoin? That's so amazing. That's crazy." But they just don't have the drive to want to go get it. And a lot of people also don't realize, because people are like, how do I buy a Bitcoin? And I look at them and I'm like, you're never going to buy a Bitcoin. Like, trust me, don't come in with the idea that you have to have like $7,000 to buy a Bitcoin. You can buy, fractions of a Bitcoin, but people just don't get that here. They don't even, and even to explain to them the basis of like why Bitcoin is this cool new idea of currency is kind of weird to them. And it's hard to even explain, like on the base level. They're like, well, how can you relate this to, the United States currency? And it's like, then you have to explain to them how the United States currency works. And they don't even believe you, is the worst part.
Oh yeah, no, they never believe you when you explain how the US currency works, even if you've studied it. Even if you really went through and studied it, they don't believe you.
And I'm not going to lie, I'm a dumbass. I don't know hardly anything about crypto and all that. I go to work all day, and pretty much in my head, once crypto goes past about 15, I stop investing in it and wait for a good cap for me to cash out at when it starts to dive again. I don't even go hardcore at this. I don't even look at the other fiat or or the other smaller currencies like Ethereum and all the other ones. I just stick at Bitcoin. But I'm so involved with the idea and the belief that Bitcoin is this like new currency that's fair to everybody, that I want it to see fruition. I want to see this become a possible fair currency that the world could accept.
I agree with you there. I think it might be a good idea to try to spread it to your friends by giving them $1 in Bitcoin, or giving them $5, or maybe, saying you'll buy them a beer and you'll give them Bitcoin, and then, let them hold on to that $5, and maybe it's $7 in the future, something like that. And then you can get them to invest a little bit more. Even those small amounts will add up. Also, as much as I do believe Bitcoin's the one, and I believe that sound money is the problem to solve, and I'm pretty much like 99% Bitcoin. I do say, if you want to get some of those crazy altcoins, take a venture capital strategy, where you take maybe $1,000 or $100, and you put 10% of that into each one of the top 10 altcoins. So put $100 in Ethereum and $100 in EOS or Stellar or Litecoin, any of these ones, and just see how it goes. I don't know how it's going to go, but I have a lot of friends that have done well on these crazy altcoins, and I'd be remiss not to tell you an easy way to either make money or an easy way to lose money, depending how it goes. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, thank you. I like that idea. How
Mhm.
would you go? How would you really go about, especially with the older generation? Because like my grandpa, he legitimately buys and sells stocks, not
Mhm.
as his main profession, but just kind of his hobby and side job. He sells actual stocks in the thousands. And I've tried to explain to him before, but he just doesn't have a trust in it. How would I go about validating it besides trying to explain what blockchain is?
Yeah, I really, as much as some people might disagree with this, but I don't think you have to understand it to use it. I think that the tools and the technology are already at the level where you can just bypass all that stuff, and I would go straight to, hey, install this app on your phone. I'll give you $1, and I would start from there, and I'd be like, now that I've given you that $1, I can't get it back. The government can't get it back. Nobody can get it back. It's your dollar. It's yours now. And for your grandfather that's already trading stocks, or anyone else that that's actually trading stocks, that's a perfect chance. What you're going to have to do, it's going to be a little tough on your end. You have to do all the technical work. So you probably have to sit down with them, get their email, get them to put a password in, get them to set up like a Bittrex account. And Bittrex is in the United States. They do KYC. If you make any money and you cash out to fiat, you should pay the taxes on it. Tell them all that. But for someone like him, say, hey, try to get him to give you like $100 or $50 or something, and then you give him $100 in Bitcoin. Just send it straight to Bittrex and say, here it is. Mess around with these altcoins. And if they've any had experience with E-Trade or any of the stock market trading things, they'll get it right away. And I think the main thing they'll see is that at the very least, the volatility in Bitcoin and these crazy altcoins is so much higher that as a trader, they can make more. And if they sell at the right time, they'll keep it. And they can also lose more. It's certainly possible. But I think it's so much more exciting from a trading perspective to be in a more active market like this. He really might get a kick out of it, and he might do well with his $100. He might even want to learn how to buy, $1,000 of his own Bitcoin to gamble
Yeah.
with, that kind of thing. So and especially there, if he has friends that trade stocks, you could consult with them. And like I told someone else, this is a little business opportunity for you. First you might have to do it for free to convince a couple people. But if you've convinced a couple people, you could go around basically holding their hand while they set up a username and a password. If you want to go all out, you could teach them how to do 2FA. But basically, the fact that you have an account set up where you can buy Bitcoin, you could sell them like $100 worth of Bitcoin for like $1.50, and then they can trade the altcoins with you setting them up with just the basic knowledge, and tell them all the time what I say. These things go up, these things go down. I don't know the future. You could win a lot of money. You could lose a lot of money. Don't invest more. Don't put your rent money in here. Don't put your retirement, but put 10% of it, put 20%. Give it a try. There's a risk here. But I think a lot of people, you just give them the tools. Like, they don't have to know like what Ethereum is or what altcoins are or any of this stuff. But if they had $100 in Bitcoin and Bittrex, and they know how to make a market order, and they know how to buy this and that, I think they'll have a great time with it. They'll have fun, and they might even make a little money. So I think it's win-win.
It sounds like a good way of going about it. I think Montana is a pretty good market though, for having people at least learning about it, just because of how underdeveloped everything is here. Even our government here is stupidly underdeveloped, and you could easily come here and advertise Bitcoin and start, even in the bigger cities like Helena and Bozeman and Billings, you could go over there and start pretty sizable. I mean, it'd be nothing compared to big cities like Las Vegas, but as far as the like Montana size goes, you could start amazingly large groups of people that would be interested in crypto. And there's not really a lot of bigger entities here that would get upset over it, just due to the lack of knowledge of it and the lack of development this state has. And the nice part about having no sales tax here is just because we've never thought of it, we've never had the issue of wanting it, and it makes everything easier.
I think another idea, when you talked about the lack of infrastructure there and that you have to drive an hour to a bank, if you were in like a residential area and other people in that area had cash and they wanted to convert that cash to Bitcoin to buy something online or something like that, you could facilitate that. You might need a money transmitting license or whatever it is. There may be some legal issues, but if you do small amounts like $20 or $100, it might not be such a big deal. But you could act as the ATM, and you could be kind of like a doctor, like a midwife, go town to town or house to house saying, hey, you got $20, you want to put your, and maybe they could invest 20 a week or something, and they would never have to use Coinbase or learn how it works. And certainly you could charge them a small fee because you're getting charged fees, and you have
need a wallet at that point.
They would just need a wallet, and then they could hold it, or they need a paper wallet or a Trezor or something. And like, you could help people have a little savings account. You could help people do this. You could have little local meetings. And again, not about the technology, just start going past that and be like, hey, install this wallet, write down your password. Okay, good. I'm giving you $20. Give me 25 or whatever. And boom, now you're into Bitcoin. And I think that'll do it for people. Give them a chance. So
Well, that's I like those thoughts. They're very good. I've not really gone to that level on it, because like I said, it's hard to anyone with money to really try to start any of that, just because of mainstream media is the hardest part. Because anytime anyone really sees it in mainstream media, they just think about the immediate kind of negative annotations to it, and it's a shame.
Oh yeah, I think they're definitely still going to do that, but something changes when you get them to hold some. If you can get them to take $20 off you, and give them a beer or something, give them a deal, make it cool for them, and then just see how it goes, and then just try to soften them. Like we're not going to convert them all at once, but we want to convert them like 10 or 20% first, and then they'll be softer and they'll be easier to convert the rest of the way.
That's awesome. I like that's you're giving me some good inspiration right now to this. I haven't watched too much of your shows. I usually end up watching them after the fact. This is the first time I haven't had to work on a Saturday. So it's very nice that I've gotten to talk to you. It really is it's really inspired me to want to do that. I feel like
Well,
there's a good market out here because I myself have yet to meet someone else from Montana that trades crypto or even owns it, let alone the opportunity to even spread it. And I think now that from what you've told me, it'd be pretty nice. Very
Well,
positive.
and you're really early to this, and you don't have to have the technical knowledge. You just need to have this nuts and bolts knowledge, the very basics. Get a wallet, set it up, send your money around. Don't put more in than you can lose. These kind of things, and I really think there's some consulting there, because the main thing that you need to have is patience, and you need to answer these people's questions, and you need to be there to hold their hand. Because they're nervous about this. They've never bought internet money before. It's totally brand new. And if you hold their hand the first time, and you hold their hand the second time, and maybe the third time, they get the Coinbase account set up. They can do it all on their own, and they can put their own $10 in. And I think really possible. And it reminds me of how early we are. Because really, yeah, a few years ago, all I would get is you're from the Silk Road and you're about drugs. And Montana's maybe just a couple years behind us there, that you're still getting that. But again, just think about how early you must be to have all this knowledge and to know about it. And that, like, even with my little flyers, I gave them to a couple people last night, and hopefully, if they go home and buy $20 worth, they'll start getting a whole bunch of knowledge about this thing. And that's what it's all about. I want them to make $100. I want them to be happy, and also just to have this knowledge about Bitcoin, because I tell people it's kind of like email in 1995. Like, I didn't have anyone to email, but I learned how to use it anyway. And then a few years later, everyone had email, and I was good to go. And I think this will be the same thing, but with Bitcoin.
And I love what you say about that, because when what you said earlier about how, Bitcoin is not prejudice, it's not sexist, it's like the most universal, anyone can get into it with any background, because it's true. I personally have terrible credit, not even from like not paying anything. Well, of course not paying anything, but I'm someone that I can't really go to the banks for anything. I can't go to anyone for really help due to bad credit. And it's awesome that Bitcoin is coming as more of a currency that can't be taken away, because it's true. I've had, physical US dollars taken from me. In the future, I could possibly have wages garnished if I make terrible decisions. But I know no matter what, unless my wallet or whatever gets hacked, I will always have Bitcoin. No one will take it from me. And it's sad that other people can't really believe that. They're so hesitant to believing. And it's sad to think that that's kind of the oppressive nature that everyone's grown into.
Well, this is also your first time, and my first time, and everyone else's first time to get to invest in something so early. I was a big fan of Facebook when it came out and everything. I wasn't even allowed to get an account. You had to be from a certain college at that time to get an account. And of course, I wanted to buy Facebook stock. I knew it was going to be awesome. I wanted to buy Twitter stock. But when these companies are very early, only the venture capitalists and the accredited investors get to buy in. We're very early in Bitcoin now, and anybody can put $20 in. Sure, you can lose it all for sure. But $20 into Facebook 10 years ago, oh man, that's serious money. And this is the first time we've ever been offered anything like that. You've ever been offered anything like that. There's no barriers. You can get right in. You can try it out. at any level that you want, $100 or $20 or $1,000 or whatever. You can try this
I,
thing out.
I agree 100%. And that's honestly exactly how I felt when people talk about like, oh man, because that's kind of the most relatable thing for people around here is Apple, because everyone just, since it's a computer, everyone's kind of really can relate to that. And they're like, man, if I would have bought Apple stock X amount of years ago, back when it
Yeah.
was nothing and they were just barely talking about it. And that's what I feel like right now. And everyone will tell me this is still a waste of my money and a waste of my time. But I know this is exactly the like how the beginnings of Apple stock and the company of like Apple and Facebook, like you said, started.
Mhm.
And part of me, just my gut feeling says, I know this will pay off later in my life. And I do not come from a rich family. I come from very poor. I have hardly anything right now. And I hope and I know that Bitcoin's probably going to be my only way up and out.
It's definitely a risk, but I do agree with you. Like this is our chance to win our way out of whatever mess you might be in, and that's why I'm telling you about these altcoins too. I don't believe in them, but I do believe there's a lot of hype in this market and that they might go up in value. I've bought some of them recently. I'm hoping they go up in value. I'm risking money like everyone else. If it goes down, it's bad for me. But you know, you got to take your chances. You got to put your risk out there. And this is a really unique environment where, like, think about anything else. I mean, obviously, all the gambling opportunities that I have in Las Vegas are all terrible. They're all pointed to the house. All the stock market opportunities, all the mutual funds, any kind of business I could invest in. You know, there's certain things out there I don't have the inside track. I don't know the insider knowledge, but on Bitcoin, I know one thing that we're crazy early. Even today, 5,000, 7,000, whatever's at right now, we are crazy early. Like you said, it's hard to get a Bitcoin now at 5 grand, but it's going to be really hard at 50 grand. If it goes up to 100 grand or whatever like that, it's going to be really hard. So this is our time. This is our chance. It's certainly a risk, but I'm excited to take this risk. And I think also that the benefits of Bitcoin, things like sound money, fair money, as they were saying earlier, they benefit everyone, even if you take the risk later or if you don't take the risk at all. So it's a unique project where both I believe in it and I believe that we can make money in it. The altcoins I don't believe in, but I do believe that you can make money in them. So I'm open to both these things, and I'm excited about the future. I think it's gonna be super cool.
And I also love when people say and talk about how, oh, this country just banned Bitcoin or just banned whatever. And it's hard to explain to them, like, you don't understand that when a country bans it, it means they have recognized that their people are using it and it's something that they want, and that the country's losing control over their people's currency and generally a control over people in a sense. And they don't realize that once you start to control something and want it gone, usually it starts to thrive and become harder to repress. And Bitcoin is one of these things that the more you repress it, the bigger it is trying to get, and it eventually could or will get.
I think so. I think it's gonna be really amazing, and we're crazy early. We just gotta get through this.
Well, I'll let you get someone who sounds a lot better on the line. It was
Oh, well, I really appreciate your call, man. I think you have a unique perspective about Bitcoin, and I don't know anybody else in Montana, so I'm super excited to talk to you.
yeah, and I'd love to if I ever get a Saturday I'm not working again and I manage to get your podcast or live stream and at the right time, I'd gladly like to call back in. This was
That'd be great, man. Let me know how it goes if you're able to get your grandfather to try Bitcoin or anyone else, and we'd love to hear back from you.
yeah. Well,
Thanks so
hope
much.
you have a good rest of your day, and I'll still be watching.
Right on. Thank you so much. Give us a call anytime. That was really cool. I really don't know anybody from Montana, Super excited to talk to him and to hear what it's like out there. Like he said, it reminds me of San Francisco and Sacramento and everywhere else a few years ago. Everyone I told about Bitcoin would tell me about the Silk Road and drugs. Everyone. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from? Oh, no microphone. Try turning the microphone off and on. All right. Well, give us a call back if you get your microphone fixed. You might have to turn the computer off and on again. Sorry about that, man. Oh. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello, I can hear you. But you can't hear me.
No, I can hear you. I didn't realize this thing had connected.
There we go.
Connected twice, for crying out loud.
Yeah, the other connection didn't have any audio, so this one's much better. We also might have some lag or something. I'm not sure.
All right, we'll see. I may have to hang up, but we'll see. Yeah, it's quite a bit. Let me call back.
All right, give us a call back. We'll try it again. Yeah, sometimes we do experience lag in this Skype remote desktop type system that we're using here. I am testing and trying to get a server to run Slack and remote desktop on and stuff, or Skype, not Slack, but I haven't gotten it yet. So, or I got one, and then they won't let me install software, and it's starting to be a deal breaker, and I'm probably gonna have to cancel that stupid thing. But we'll see. One more try. Hello, can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you're live on the World Crypto Network. Do you have a question about Bitcoin, or just want to add to the discussion?
All right. It's for some reason it's totally double. Oh, anyway. Yeah, I'd like to just mainly point out a Lightning Network payments I have set up. I'm sorry, the lag here is really bad. I'm gonna call back another time or something.
Okay, no worries, man. Also, if you just want to tell us your comment or whatever, I can hear you good. Just go ahead.
It's just a here, let me give you the okay. Well, I really enjoy your show, and I really appreciate it. I'm going to give you the URL in the chat or something like that, and I'll figure it out. Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Thanks so much for the call. Sorry I couldn't get it working with the lag. But we'll try to keep this show open maybe till 12. I'm starting to get a little tired. And I do have to get to my video editing project so I can make you guys a cool video about the flyers that I handed out yesterday. But I really enjoyed the call from Montana. I think he has a unique perspective on Bitcoin, and I think a lot of us do. And we might think that we're the only one that's non-technical, that's into Bitcoin, thinks it's cool, can see through all of this stuff. But like the caller showed, he's not the only one. There's lots of people out there, technical, non-technical, different kinds of people that are all into Bitcoin, and that's what we need. That's the thing we need. We need all kinds of different people, young, old, technical, non-technical, all the different kind of categories, male and female, et cetera, et cetera. Totally open-minded. But we need more people. So if you have an idea on how to get those people, if you want to hand out flyers in your local town, do some filming of it. I'd be glad to add it to my movies here and to add it to the community and the discussions. We might actually head towards the door here. We've had a lot of calls today. They've kind of been back to back to back, which is ideally, that's absolutely what we want. And maybe we'll be able to do another one of these shows later today. Although I do want to do some editing, and then I want to do some other stuff. I need to do some. I need some exercise. I sit in a chair too much. But no, I think that's going to be about it for today's show. I think we covered some good stuff. We didn't talk that much about the news today. We started out with that great Captain Kirk quote. I'm kind of celebrating my little Amazon Prime Day victory. I bought all the Star Trek. All the Star Trek. Yeah, it was a little bit of money, but it was half price off because it was crazy Prime Day, and I'm looking forward to that. My update finished on my computer, so I can edit video now. This is Bitcoin Talk Show. Let's get one more price check on Bitcoin, although Bitcoin Average just seems to stop loading. If anyone has a better website than Bitcoin Average that does an average of the exchanges, I guess I could do CoinDesk, their price thing, but it's not as good. I like the layout of the Bitcoin Average. It has a really nice way of showing me the high and the low. But the price of Bitcoin is 7,420, down from a recent high of 7,696 and a recent low of 7,242. It's $1 for 13,465 Satoshis. As always, you can support the World Crypto Network by sending Bitcoin. Doesn't have to be a large amount, could be a small amount, or some crazy altcoins to any of the addresses that you can see on your screen right now. Also, I've put at one point I had them in the comments or something. I don't know. If you message me, maybe I'll send you the address, but QR codes are pretty good. Also, thanks to everyone who supports us on Patreon. We have 30 patrons donating $237 a month to the World Crypto Network, and we have 82 patrons donating $513 a month to Mad Bitcoins. And that does help me pay my rent and other expenses, stuff like that. So we had a good time talking about the news. I handed out some Bitcoin flyers last night. I need to go edit the video. I did some lip syncing to Bon Jovi. I've seen too many puppeteers recently. They all do lip syncing to songs. It's pretty fun. I took some pictures. I read some Solzhenitsyn. We talked about Ross Ulbricht and Terrence Yang. And again, we agree with Terrence Yang. It's totally fine to have a debate like this. We are discussing ideas here. We're not getting mad at anybody. And China's crypto millionaires are using Bitcoin to buy real estate abroad. Sounds like a good idea. Bitcoin and Stellar get a big boost from IBM stablecoin. I don't know what that's about, but that's pretty interesting. I saw yesterday that Stellar passed Litecoin. Pretty interesting stuff going on there. But you have to make up your own mind. I'm not promoting anything here. I'm just saying that was the article that came up on my Bitcoin search. Bitcoin holding strong above 7,000. That seems pretty cool. And who's this guy? Oh, the former CFTC chair has Bitcoin on the brain. And this happens all the time. While he's in office, he can't do a thing for us. But the minute he gets out of office, I'm sure that he's consulting for some companies and making some lucrative money. Just like that guy, Super Nintendo Losky. He was in the New York State. He helped write the BIT license. He wanted to protect consumers. And then, as soon as he left New York State, he became a consultant on the very BIT license that he wrote. So this has happened before, and it will happen again. But thanks to everybody for joining us. Thanks for giving us a thumbs up and a share. That really does help new people find the show. Be sure to subscribe down below, share the word on Twitter, follow on Mad Bitcoins, and I'm going to release the PDFs for the flyers soon as I get this video done. And then I'm going to be asking you to print out some flyers and go to your local town square and film yourself handing them out. Just film yourself on your iPhone or iPad or whatever, and or Android or Samsung or whatever it is. And I think it'll be great. I think we can spread the word about Bitcoin and maybe meet some more people to hand out flyers. And we can go to our meetup groups and we can say, hey, you know, we meet all the time and we have speakers and we have social meetups, but we don't ever meet all the time and do something, I hate to say it, but something political. Bitcoin is political. Bitcoin is religious. Bitcoin is money. It's technology. It checks all the boxes. It fills all the categories. It's a unique and different thing, unlike anything we've ever seen. We have no marketing department. We have no marketing lead. We have no one in charge. No one's buying us ads. All we have is you and me and Bitcoin. And we're going to win. They're doomed. We have Bitcoin. So Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to check out some of the other shows on the World Crypto Network. We did the Bitcoin group yesterday. Max has been doing some great interviews and contents from Mises University. Check out his interview with Safedine Amos, the author of the Bitcoin Standard, right here on the World Crypto Network. Until next time, bye-bye.